I bid you welcome.
That's what I figured, but yeah. Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the hunt for the Skinwalker.
Oh yeah.
So, what do you think?
I thought it was very good, actually. I was quite engrossed in it. So much information. Actually, to be honest, I have to say that George Knapp, who is like the main man, he's the main conduit of the Skinwalker story. He should narrate everything.
He should.
He should narrate. I mean, he does the news. He should narrate everything.
He should be doing he should be doing Audible stuff. He should be reading books
a lot.
He should be reading the fucking dictionary. He should be reading everything. I could listen to this guy yap every minute.
Children's stories.
Everything.
Everything.
He is amazing. That voice. He is the David Attenborough of the paranormal, dude, with that voice.
Yeah. I'm surprised he doesn't do more narration to do with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way that he projects is very, very. I can understand why he does TV and he does news reports and stuff.
He's great.
Yeah, because he's very. When he talks, you listen.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I have nothing but respect for that dude. He's awesome. I mean, when he shows up on Coast to Coast, it's. What does he do? He does like 2 Sundays a month, and I'm glued.
Yeah. No, he is my favorite.
It's the only time I listen to Coast is when he's on it. That fucking retard George Norrie, I can't listen to that fool.
Well, I must admit, when I was introduced to Coast, I think it was, it was way back in the Nervous Teeth days.
Yeah.
And I think you introduced me to it, and you said, listen to some of this. And I think one of the shows was with George Knapp, and I thought, now, I could listen to that guy a lot, but all the other ones... There was another guy as well who used to do a UFO show. He doesn't do it anymore on Coast to Coast.
Who was that?
Or maybe he was a guest presenter, I don't know. But he was quite interesting as well. He always reminded me of... what's his name? Area 51 man with the glasses.
Oh, Bob Lazar?
He always reminded me. He looked a little bit like Bob Lazar.
Oh. Well, George Knapp was the guy that broke the whole Bob Lazar story. There would be no Bob Lazar were it not for George Knapp.
Well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, one of the things this film, well, it's not a film; it's a documentary.
Right.
It's It's kind of a docu-film. Well, it's got so much information. I mean, when you actually see the amount of information and the documents and the videos, he's got. I don't know how many videotapes, Betamax and VHS tapes,
everything
of actual recordings from him when he got on Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, there's so much. I mean, the Hunt for the Skinwalker. This is a brand new documentary by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. It came out like 2 weeks ago. I've watched it 3 times already. And the documentary itself is over 2 hours in length, right?
Yeah.
And the vibe I got was that they have so much information and so much footage and so much shit that they could have made this like an 8-hour movie.
Yeah, I don't think. I think what we saw on there was just a very small portion of a select area of content that, because I also got the vibe that George Knapp in this documentary was calling the shots. He was the guy with the treasure.
Sure.
And he was like, well, if I'm going to be in this and it's going to be about this, then I'm going to have to call the shots away so it's done in the way that I want it done. And I think in a way that's a good thing.
George Knapp had been like investigating this ranch in Utah, Skinwalker Ranch, since like the mid-'90s, and trying to make a documentary, but it just didn't happen.
No.
He hooks up with this dude, Jeremy Corbell, and suddenly the wheels start turning, and he pops out this video. So, I mean, I think the way I look at it is like the meat and potatoes of this documentary is George Knapp's footage and information, but the gravy, I'm sorry if I'm using a food metaphor, but the gravy over the meat and potatoes is Jeremy Corbell kind of putting it all together and making a narrative using the core of George Knapp's footage.
Well, yeah, I think it does do that, because if you think about the program itself, the producer, Jeremy, he kind of narrates it, but he doesn't really take an active role in it. It's mainly a retrospect on all of George Knapp's findings, and George Knapp is mainly the main person who's interviewed. I mean, there are NIDS guys on there. They do bring in the NIDS guys, and they interview those, and some of the stuff that they witnessed, crazy, and they recount it. So it's not just like George Knapp has got the Skinwalker Ranch, and but they do recount the family and their experiences, and other people that have had experiences. And I do think that it was all very well paced. Do you think?
I agree. I mean, there are so many of these documentaries that appear on the internet or on iTunes, or streaming services. Like Netflix is full of UFO documentaries, right? And the vast majority of them are, I mean, let's be honest, they're just shit. Very difficult to watch. They're all over the place. They're garbage. And then there's the minority. There's a small minority of documentaries out there that are actually really good. And I would say that The Hunt for Skinwalker falls into that category. This is a very well put together documentary. Tons of great information. And it flows. You don't get bored, even though it's over 2 hours. And you're not sitting there like, oh my God, when is this bullshit going to end? It doesn't feel like that at all. The 2 hours just fly by. And for people that are familiar with Skinwalker, now I know that both of us, you yourself and we're very much aware of Skinwalker Ranch and the stuff that's going on there. So a lot of the information that was presented in The Hunt for Skinwalker, we were already aware of. But for the average person who's presented with this for the first time, this shit is mind-blowing.
Well, it's to the level of semi-unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the fact is that there's multiple witnesses to multiple events that have gone on there, and there's so many theories as to why things are happening. And it goes back to even the native Indians have stories of things in the basin area, of things happening many long before the Skinwalker story broke.
Well, that kind of ties in here, because I've pulled a couple of short clips from the documentary that I want to play to give everyone listening a taste for what they are missing by not going out and getting a copy of this documentary. So what you just said right there, Reeves, this has been going on for a very, very long time. So let's just have a quick listen to this.
For as long as humans have lived in this part of northeastern Utah, they've reported strange things in the sky, in and around their homes, and sometimes inside their heads. A Byzantine smattering of unusual phenomena, a paranormal stew. It's as if some other reality occasionally bleeds into our world, giving us glimpses of the universe next door.
There we go. I can listen to this guy talk all day, dude.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
All day.
It's great.
All day. It's just awesome.
It's just so well paced. There's stuff been going on there for a long time, and it's not just people at Skinwalker that have experienced stuff. It's people in and around that area that have also seen strange phenomenon and have seen lights in the sky, and not just phantom lights like it's just
because a lot of people may be tuning into this me and you talking here, not really knowing well, what the hell is Skinwalker? What are you guys yapping on about? So Jeremy Corbell in the beginning of the documentary gives a real brief overview of what is Skinwalker Ranch. And I'm going to play this, and then I'd like you to give your take of what Skinwalker Ranch is, and I'll chime in also. So this is a clip from the movie also.
This is the story of a place. It's been shrouded in secrecy for more than 20 years. There have been whispers, but most likely, you've never seen or heard the real events. I guarantee you that was the plan all along. That's exactly what they wanted. Imagine a place between shadow and substance. a place where the world is thin. To most, a location that invokes the darkest and most hidden corners of terror. Something prowls here, something lurks. And if you hunt it, it's going to hunt you back.
So I mean, it's a really descriptive little, little Twilight Zone as a shadow and substance. You've entered Skinwalker Ranch. A very kind of Twilight Zone kind of intro, but very well done. So Skinwalker Ranch, it's a piece of property in Utah that for a very long time has been experiencing some very, very strange phenomena. I mean, a couple of times in the documentary, they refer to it as the Disneyland of the paranormal, or the Area 51 of the paranormal, because there's so much activity there from all different genres, like these UFOs, ghosts, poltergeists, animal mutilations, Bigfoot, you name it. Any weird stuff that goes on in the world, it's probably happened at Skinwalker Ranch at some time.
Well, I mean, when the family that bought it originally, it was a couple that bought it. They bought it as their dream place. They wanted to raise prize cattle and have a small farm as a holding. And it was within a few days that they started to experience strangeness. And it was more likened to a poltergeist strangeness, where little things would go missing. They would have, you would basically, for one example, the wife came home one afternoon with a week's worth of shopping. She spent 10 minutes taking all out of the carrier bags, putting it in the cupboards, feeling it all away. She got called out of the kitchen. She went to see who wanted to talk to her. And then when she came back a few minutes later, everything was back out of the cupboards, back in the carrier bags and on the table.
That's a fairly.
You know what I mean?
I mean, when you think about that, can you imagine how you would feel to experience that?
Well, yeah, that's just if you have that experience, that changes you there and then.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you cannot. There's no denying that if you're the only person in that area, and even in the few minutes that she was away,
in the amount of time,
having a conversation, there's not enough time.
Because if you got all this shopping, right? You're unpacking, you're putting it away, putting stuff in the fridge, putting stuff in the cupboards. It's going to take you, say, it takes you 20 minutes to put all that stuff away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave the room for 30 seconds, and then you come back, and everything is back in the bags as if you've done nothing. Yeah.
Well, they also had encounters of what they describe as being in their main home area, because the home is obviously it's a ranch, and the home is on the it's all farmland, and they would have their dinner, they sit down watching telly, and they would hear what they describe as people walking around outside close to the windows, and they would see shadows passing, and they would go outside and no one would be there.
Right.
They at one point thought they had stalkers, people trying to scare them off the ranch for whatever reason.
Well, the thing I was going to say is the deal with the lady coming home with her week's worth of shopping.
Yeah.
That's very, very similar to poltergeist activity or a haunting. Both of us are very familiar with these cases where people move something will, like you'd have a shelf full of knickknacks and ornaments, and you'd look at them, and then you'd look away for a second, and you'd look back, and they've all changed position.
Yeah.
Things like that. This is very common in severe hauntings. And this is taking place at this ranch, but there's also massive UFO sightings.
Not only that, is that they obviously, we'll get onto the mutilations and stuff in a little bit, but the fact is that it not just little knickknacks, that they had two or three prize bulls, and these bulls were massive.
Right.
They were big animals, and they weighed a lot, and they were prize bulls. They cost like thousands of dollars each, and they were the main prize of the ranch. They were without those.
Well, that's their business. That's their livelihood right there.
Yeah. And they drove one day. They drove out. They did their circuit of the ranch just to check on all the young animals and stuff to make sure, because at that time they were having a lot of mutilations, and even we'll go on to it, but one mutilation happened, and it was very quick. But the thing is that they drove past the ranch where their prize bulls were, and they said, oh, well, you know, they were actually talking like, well, if we ever lost those, that would be the end of us. We'd have to pack up shop because that's our livelihood there. On 30 minutes later, they're driving back, and they look to the pen where the bulls are,
and they're gone.
And the bulls aren't there.
Yeah, they're gone.
And they're like, oh my God, where have they gone? They drive to the pen. The pen's still locked, and next to the pen is a container. It's like a workshop container. Imagine a container that goes on the back of a truck.
It was like a big, kind of like a shipping container, like a.
And there's 2 pens connected to this thing, and both pens are locked. They look inside the container, and the 4 or 3 large bulls are all stuffed in there. The doors are locked. The pens are locked. So there's no way that someone could have ushered them in.
Right.
It took them, I think, 3 or 4 hours to get them out. But the strange thing was, they noticed that when they looked in, the bulls were all very calm, like they were in some sort of trance.
Yeah, they were in like a daze.
And as soon as he clacked the door open, they kind of woke up and started going crazy and kicking things, trying to get out.
Destroyed the inside. And what I found was interesting too is that there's, you know, just to get one bull in through the little doorway, that would be a huge struggle. It would take a long time.
He noticed that there were steps, and they don't like going up steps and stuff.
But the lock on the door had not been touched. There was still cobwebs over the lock.
Yeah, that was I think that was Nid's investigator, wasn't it? When they checked it.
That's amazing.
But,
amazing.
Yeah, totally bizarre. So this is where we get what's called, which is a recently, I think, new phenomenon, is the trickster phenomenon.
Yes.
Where
I don't know whether it's new. I mean, there's the Native American cultures have been talking about the tricksters for centuries.
I mean, new is in the sense of we talk about poltergeists, but you could put the trickster phenomenon in with poltergeists.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But also this phenomenon is for something like that to happen. It's obviously conscious enough to be listening to what you're saying and what you're doing.
Right.
You know.
Yep. It's a little bit like if there was an anthill in your backyard, and you started fucking with it, like putting twigs in front of the ants, or pouring a little bit of water in front of the troop and stuff. Now, to the ants themselves, this would be like, oh my, what is going on here?
What's going on?
But for us, overviewing and seeing the big picture, this is just a bit of fun, you know. Hey, we're having a good look. We're fucking around with these ants. It's very similar to that kind of vibe. When you see these kind of things, it's as if there's a higher power that is maybe in another dimension or something that can overlook
you put it this
ours.
way: when you stand over an anthill and you watch all the ants going about their daily business, whatever it might be, they are, let's be honest, they are completely unaware of you. Right. In the sense of they're going about their daily business. Right. You're not part of their life, their construct, what they're doing. And so if you start dropping droplets of water or throwing twigs on them, to them, what's happening?
Yeah, it's the end of the world.
You know. And the thing is this is very much like the Skinwalker Ranch, where they have had UFO sightings. Multiple people have seen things over many years. And also, when, obviously, we talk about Bigelow coming in and deciding that he wanted to buy the ranch, because basically the couple, they'd had enough. They got to a point where their animals were being mutilated. Even one young calf, they saw the mother in the area with the calf. And literally a little while later, we're talking like less than. It was days.
Within an hour or so.
Yeah, it was stripped. It was literally from head to rear. Yeah. It was stripped bare.
And the crazy thing,
not a drop of
blood anywhere, which led the investigators to believe that this animal was taken
done there.
And it was, disemboweled and ripped apart someplace else, and then the carcass was neatly placed in its original location.
But we forget to mention when we talk about stuff like that, we also should talk about the fact that within the first week or so of the couple moving in with their family, they had the encounter with the giant wolf.
Yes. Now this is the part that I found frustrating, though, listening to that. So I see. I'm a little reluctant to recount this entire tale with the wolf, and I think that people should either watch the documentary
They should watch the film and to get the full,
or read the book, The Hunt for Skinwalker. But there's a moment in there which I found frustrating where they shot this animal and a chunk of flesh flew off this animal, and they picked up this flesh, and no one talks about what they did with it. You know, I would have thought, well, that would have been amazing to get that analyzed and to find out, you know, what kind of animal this was. But they didn't never touched on, well, you know, yeah, we threw it away, or we lost it, or it vanished, or we gave it to the government to examine, or it was just, no one mentioned anything. It was just, okay, let's just move on.
Well, they did later on do some investigating, and they did come up with a conclusion of what the wolf may have been.
Sure, yeah, but there was no concrete. Like, had they kept that lump of flesh that was blown off with the gun, they could have gotten DNA from that. They could have examined it and gotten a lot more information.
I totally agree, but let's look at it from another angle. We're on the farm. We're not interested in UFOs, we've got no idea what Skinwalker's all about. We don't. Which to us is a ranch, and we raise cattle, right?
Yeah, right.
We encountered this wolf. You shoot it. To us, it's just a big dog. We're not interested in that.
Yeah, you're probably right. They probably
throw it away.
And this encounter was so early, they probably like, they just toss it, and that's the end of that.
Yeah.
But it's still like, wow, what a shame. That would have been amazing.
It would have. Yeah, it would have been. It would have been. But there was
another encounter that I don't think this was included in the movie, but I listened to George Knapp on a radio interview talk about this, where some of the investigators were driving at night, and they see two figures in trench coats and hats. You know, like a 1950s detective.
Oh yeah.
And they're standing, and they're in the middle of the road, and the guy slows down with his headlights on, illuminating these two figures. These two figures are smoking cigarettes, just hanging out, you know, in the middle of the road, and they turn around, and he sees their faces, and they're dogs.
They're like wolfmen.
Yeah. And then they walk off, and they walk into the tree line, into the forest, and they're gone, leaving a pile of cigarette butts on the road.
There's definitely something, without question, there's something bizarre going on in that area.
Very strange, but fascinating. I love this shit.
But also, they some of the evidence. Well, I will raise this because there's lots more, but some of the evidence they do show. With what I'd call light phenomenon, but there's a few photographs that they show, a few frames of film, and there's a few photographs.
Right? Yeah. With
one photograph.
Are you talking about the building?
Fascinating. With the two large buildings.
Yes, the buildings that appeared. Yeah, that was very fresh. I wish they'd gone into more detail on that.
Yeah.
So what happened was that the government had been investigating it, and private contractors, Robert Bigelow. They'd spent millions of dollars investigating this place for years. And while I think everyone who was there investigating experienced high strangeness, they didn't catch that much photographic evidence.
It was almost as if it kind of was one step ahead of them.
Yeah, exactly. It knew what the next step was. But occasionally they did catch some things on film or on camera. And there was one photograph, they show this in the documentary for just like 30 seconds, maybe less, where it was a field and a building, like two skyscrapers appeared in this field, that they got a photograph of it. And obviously the skyscrapers were there for I don't know how long, and then they were gone. And I always thought, please tell me more about this. This is fascinating. But they really they showed the photograph, they talked about it, then they moved on.
They also recount the when they witnessed the portal opening up in the field.
Oh yes.
That dome of light opening up, and something like a figure crawling out, like as if someone was crawling through like a sewer.
Yes, but the thing is that they only saw that through infrared.
Yeah, it wasn't visible to the eye.
To the naked eye. When they looked through the infrared, they saw like a portal open up and a creature crawl through this portal, jump out, and then run into the trees.
Yeah, run into the tree line, yeah.
And another great one, which I wish they'd elaborate on more, was portals would open up, and you'd look through them, and you'd see another sky. Like at night, a portal would open up, and you'd look through it, and it'd be daylight on the other side. You'd see the sky and clouds on the other side of this portal.
Yeah, it's like a door was opening up into something else. Into another dimension, another reality.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that's why. And also, they would go on the hunt for the droning sound. They would have this droning sound, which was coming from the earth.
Yes, right.
They had a what they recount to machinery. It only happened at night.
They did also use because there's certain things they would do to try and
entice it.
Yeah. So I got a clip right here of George Knapp talking about his first ever visit to Skinwalker Ranch. So let's have a quick listen to this.
On our first visit to the ranch, we tried to get the attention of whatever it is that lives here. Sometimes merely the arrival of outsiders is enough, so we hiked around, made noise, disturbed the earth. And at night, we built a fire out in the middle homestead, which has been a focal point of dramatic and unexplained events. We did everything short of painting a bullseye on our foreheads, and then we waited.
It's because there's so many rumors that if you dig in the earth,
it disturbs it. Yeah, it makes it angry.
And the people that actually bought the ranch from one of the stipulations in the contract of the sale of the property was that they could not dig into the earth unless the previous owners were notified first, which was kind of strange because then they were thinking like, well, I wonder if there's like buried treasure or bodies or or something, you know.
Certain areas they couldn't not to disturb, and I think you know I always thought from all the literature that I read when I first started I started reading about the Skinwalker Ranch back way. I mean, I give people an idea of how long ago it was. It was when the Dulce papers first came out.
Right.
So, a long time ago. So, I mean, we're looking at sort of, something that's been going on, a very long time and being researched for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been so many encounters at Skinwalker over the years. And the thing that really, really got to me watching this documentary was the government involvement and private corporation involvement to try and
who were also connected to the government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you'd think that if this was just a bunch of hicks out in the middle of nowhere, a bit mental, just rambling about nonsense, nobody would be interested, and that would be the end of that. But when you have government agencies camped out there for months, if not years, and all of them coming back and talking about experiencing some very, very bizarre situations, it really leads to the conclusion that something is going on there. There is something to this, right? It's not just the ramblings of mental cases. Something really is happening.
No. Well, that's why I think, Bigelow, with all his money and all his, his empire, got involved. He bought the ranch. He set up NIDS, the National Institute for Science. He set up NIDS, for Discovery Science, that was it. And they actually went out there. They did it in a very scientific, logical way. They had their encounters. They experienced things which were completely out of the norm. And then, obviously, the ranch has been past hands again. It's gone on to someone else now, and the person that now owns it doesn't want to be disclosed. He wants his identity kept secret. No. But the investigation is still going on, and of course, to get the government agencies as well that come in and do their thing. And when you think of governments, well, personally, I'm not talking conspiracies here, but when you think of governments getting involved with stuff, for example, remote viewing, ESP, it's usually because they want to try and weaponize it, or they want to make it so that it can be used against other people or other things.
Right.
And I do get this. I do get the the feeling that that we go back to the sounds that emanate from certain areas. That I think there's possibility that there is some form of base, underground base in that area. I do think whether it's a military base or something.
Yeah, because they would hear like digging sounds, as if something is digging or drilling underground or things like that.
And we do know from lots of videos online, people who do like discovery videos, that these bases, there are hundreds of these bases. But during the Cold War, there were hundreds of military bases in little villages and places and small areas in the middle of nowhere where these bases were huge, and nobody knew where they were there.
Like cities, so cities underground. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so there's a possibility that there is something underground there, that it's very secret, and that it is in a way connected to the events that are happening at Skinwalker in some way. Yeah. Whether it's connected and it's controlling it, or whether it's just something that is there to monitor it, I don't know that. But I think what this documentary does is it covers and gives enough information for the viewer to not only come up with their own, logical reasoning why, this stuff possibly could be going on, but it also shows it in a way that doesn't over make it like an action movie. So a lot of these, one of the things I do want to raise is that we've watched a lot of these programs that have come up, and one thing I did notice that a lot of these programs, they tend to over dramatize what they're doing. They're trying to make it so like
over the top or
over the
more
top,
interesting than it actually is.
So this didn't do that.
Well, it does. To be honest, it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to do it, right? Whereas it was very laid back.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to like push things over the top or make it so dramatic. Other documentaries, they kind of feel the need to do that because their story or their evidence or their take on it is so small or so slim, they want to make it bigger than it actually is. But at Skinwalker, there's so much stuff, they don't need to do that.
Yeah, but don't you think in a way, no matter what it is, it kind of ruins it when you go down that road?
Yeah,
to make it like
a little bit. It does, yeah.
And I think that the producer, the filmmaker of Skinwalker, kind of knew that, and he didn't want that. He thought, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be more realistic.
Yeah, well, Jeremy Corbell, the guy who, he's if you go into his Vimeo account, he has a ton of videos up there that I've been picking through. And apparently he spent a lot of time with John Lear back in the day, and filmed hundreds of hours of footage interviewing John Lear, and he started to put together like I guess a TV show on John Lear, but I don't know, maybe it didn't happen. But I found that pretty interesting what he'd put up there so far. It would be really cool if he put together a documentary on John Lear based on the footage that he already has. But I like the style. I like the style of his videos, the way he puts things together. They're very easy on the eyes, very easy to watch, and very informative. So I'm looking forward to his next project. I think the next one coming out in December is he's done a documentary on Bob Lazar, which also ties into the whole George Knapp thing. So I'm sure George Knapp will be involved in that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But definitely some good stuff. So maybe we should wrap it up here, but I would highly recommend The Hunt for Skinwalker. For if anyone listening, if you have not seen it, go ahead and check it out. I think it's available on iTunes and a bunch of different places throughout the web. And keep looking, keep digging.
Yeah, it's definitely a two thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed this show, and I think that if he does create any further ones, especially regarding Bob Lazar's story, it would if you don't believe the content, because obviously Bob Lazar, people are a bit but still, I think it's going to be presented in a way, if it's done the same as Skinwalker, it would be an interesting watch.
Yeah,
and I do think it's my video of the week.
2 thumbs up for me, Reeves.
Yeah,
all
definitely.
Right? Yeah, great stuff.
It's great.
That's what I figured, but...
Zoom in?
Yeah. Okay, okay.
Zoom in and out.